Hope you can hear me.
Clear, Rhoda.
Let me just get a confirmation that I'm clear.
Yes,
You're
you are.
clear.
Okay,
Clear.
thank you. So just to begin us off, I'll start with introduction. And maybe the few of you who are able to unmute, you could just unmute and tell us probably your name, the organization you are representing, or what you're doing. And also you could just give us 1 or 2 expectations that you desire by end of these 3 hours that we are together to gain. So Rhoda, my name is Rhoda Wairioka, as you can see in the profile. I'm a HR practitioner, I'm a trainer, and also a consultant. So I wear those 3 hats. I've been in the HR industry, like majority of you, for the last, I can say 21 years, and went into consultants and also now specialized in the training, because I thought that is the best thing that I can do in terms of the HR. I know HR is wide. I've done the entire scope, but HR and capacity development is very key for me, because I feel that is the part of HR. Now you begin becoming a business partner. You partner with the business, with the operations, so that you can build capacity towards the attainment of the strategy. So that is how I'm in the training. So I'm one of you, a practitioner. I work. Then during my free time, I do a few consultancies here and there, and also the training. So that is basically me. And I believe majority of you looking from the topic are also HR professionals. So let me just hear for those who are able to unmute. I know some of us are multitasking. This is adult learning, and I will not want to press you so hard. So you're able to unmute. You could just start by introducing yourself. Where are you coming from? And maybe what is it that you want to take home by the end of the 2-3 hours that we're going to be together, so that we can be able to do the discussion. I'm asking this because I like my sessions to be interactive, because we can read all these slides. You'll have them at the end of this presentation, so you can keep on making reference to them. But I want to be as practical as possible, because these are the things that we are experiencing in the workplace. Again, our organizations are very dynamic. Some are coming from the government institutions, others are coming from NGOs, others are coming from the private industry, and the application will differ with the uniqueness of your organization and also the design of your structures. So we need to have such, so that I don't talk to a class thinking this is government institutions, that we have all that kind of diversity. So anyone can just unmute in any order. Banis, are you able to do that?
Rhoda, let me go.
Yes, Susan, thank you.
Yes. My name is Susan Kemei, and I work with Anglican Development Services, North Rift, which is the development arm of the Anglican Church. It's a non-governmental organization, and I work as the human resource manager.
Great.
My expectation for this training is that being aware that turnover is a very expensive affair. So for me, I'm expecting that at the end of this training, I would be able to have taken in 1 to 3 key lessons on how I would retain my staff, so that I can cut on that particular cost. Thank you, Rhoda.
Thank you, Susan. Susan is in the NGO, and her expectation is this staff retention, how to retain, and also we'll see what, when you talk about staff retention, what does it entail? Of course, turnover is very real, even with the kind of demographies we have in our organizations. So how do we tame this? And that is what we are going to look at. So from NGO, we'll get a lot of input, because the practices, as you hear, are quite different. Someone else? Thank you, Susan, for that. Lillian, Lorna, are you able to unmute? Robert is coming in. Felicitas, nice to see you again.
Thank you. I can go next.
Yes, kindly.
Okay, so my name is Felista Warigia. I work for an organization called Room Tech Solutions Limited. It's in the tech space. I'm the HR manager there. So my expectation will be, generally being in an environment where we have very young people, how the expectations are different from maybe the older generation. And you find that in comfortable, they want remote working and all those other things. So how do you actually retain these young people who are very, can I say volatile? They
Yes.
want to move and move fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And I like what you say. What are they looking for? Do we sit back and say, the kind of employees I have, they're looking for this, and how can we tailor in terms of our perks and the benefits? Because maybe they're not interested in the long term that we're looking for, like pension. Majority of people in our age, we're looking for stability. You want a permanent and pensioner job. There are people who say, I want to do an assignment and finish being a contract. So do we have that flexibility? So those are some of the things that we are going to explore. And you can see by giving our expectation, I normally say, even in my growth in terms of the training, a lot of things you learn on the job and you learn through training, because you're able to engage with diverse groups of people from all walks of life, from all the levels. So as you train, you also learn from them, because you will pick a point and then it will be expanded. So that is also another way of learning. Thank you, Felicitas, for that in the tech space. The other one is in an NGO, in the agricultural space. So let's keep on going. Anyone in any order so that we save time. Jacinta, you want to go next? Hello. Just unmute. We have, yes. Carry on.
Good
Emily.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Emily Mitei. I work for Outspan Medical College as the HR manager. And my expectation at the end of this training is to retain the high talented members of staff. Realizing that we need to understand what the Z generation require. So maybe I expect at the end of this training, I would have an idea of what they actually require to retain that top talent. Now that you find that those staff who leave the organization are the highly talented employees.
Great. Thank you, Emily, for that.
One medical college is a private entity.
You're in a medical college, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. That is also private. Very diverse team we have today. Thank you. At times I find myself having people from the government. The bit of it and the beauty of this is that I've worked in both divides in those years. And Emily has brought a very, very, very important and fundamental term, that when you talk about the staff retention, when you talk about attraction, of course, first we'll start to look at what is attraction. How do you attract people to your organization? And that is why you see we are keen. Where are you working? What are you known for? If I want to come to your organization, if I ask, have you heard about this organization? What is it known for? So you have to make that employer brand and visibility for people and candidates and also potential talents to be attracted to you. That's where it all begins. Then you'll be able to attract them, you onboard them, you invest in them, but then we look at the retention. And when you talk about the staff retention, it is just not retention of the numbers, that there is no attrition. At times attrition is good, because it brings about diversity, the new blood. But she has talked about the category of employees we call the hypo employees, the high potential, the high performing employee. Those are the categories of the employee you need to tap in and retain at all the cost. Do we have mechanisms of identifying who are these high performers, so that we can come up with different interventions and capacity development programs that like coaching, mentorship program, so that we keep them engaged, because these are people who learn very fast and they're very good in their work. And also in terms of engaging them, they keep on looking, what is the next challenge? So you'll find that kind of an employee, you will not apply the same mechanisms or the same kind of initiatives to actually retain them, because these are also the people who are highly looked for, easily headhunted, poached. So what are you going to do about it? So you should be able to categorize your employee, because we normally say training or capacity building is just one of the many interventions we'll have in the HR system. And I'm happy to hear that majority of us are in HR. So as much as we're going to talk about the talent management and also the retention and attraction of the talent, of course, I always say HR is very it is integrated. It's an integrated system, and not what we have been preaching when we talk about the human resource business partnership or being a strategic HR. It's being able to integrate all the HR systems and going ahead to integrate it into the business, aligning all your strategies, all your policy, all your activities to be strategic based on, and then that is why now we talk about the competency-based kind of HR activities. Whether you're going to do recruitment, let it be competency-based. Even talk about attracting, let it be competency-based. When you talk about training, it should be pegged on building the competencies. When you go to issues like performance, it is all integrated. And that kind of identification is very important, especially when you talk about retaining high potential employees or retention. And then we'll also see how capacity building and training is so critical. Because, of course, one of the budgets that is easily hit in a HR is the training budget. But we forget, at times we may be penny wise and pound foolish, and we want to really save on staff cost and cut on training. And we are afraid if we invest all this money in Rhoda, in Emily, in terms of the training, and then they are poached or they are taken away, we feel like it is a loss to the organization. But there's always that saying that what if you don't train them and they decide to stay? What if an employee does not perform? They are not moved. They're in an organization and they decide they're not going anywhere. They'll just be sitting and waiting for the salary at the end of the month. So we also tie to the performance and also productivity. Thank you, Emily, for that. So in fact, we have, as we go through the slides, I always want you to me and say, what does that mean to you? And then you go back to your workplace and say, what struggles are we having and what kind of solutions can we try to generate out of that? Because people could be demotivated, they could be leaving for various reasons. So we also want to bring it and make it very practical. Thank you for Emily. It is a whole topic that we can discuss the entire day when we come to strategic HR performance and also the what we call the HRBP. HR is you're doing the HR activity, but you are the heart of the business and you speak the business language. Because for us in HR, we should take ourselves not like routine, administrative and support. We are actually enablers of the business. So we should be also at the center of the strategic meeting. Let's say another person. We'll just take maybe 3 more, then we can begin. But I'll give room for discussions so that we are able to do that. Who want to go next? Jem, do you want to tell us something? Lillian? I'm looking for familiar faces.
Morning, can I go next?
Yes, Clara, go ahead.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Clara Ekakorom. I work with Guarantee Trust Bank. I've just started my career. I'm 8 months in. And I'm hoping by the end of this discussion to have more, to get key points on how I'm going to help my organization in retaining staff. Since I work in an organization with the Gen Z, so I'm hoping to get skills on how I'm going to deal with them, on how I'm going to help them stay in the organization and improve their performance.
Great. So Clara, for how long have you been at the Trust Bank?
I'm just 8 months in HR, yes.
Before then, where were you coming from?
I was in another department. Now I'm in HR. I was just in Guarantee Trust Bank, but in another department.
Great. So you'll also tell us what attracted you to that organization, because as you can say, your colleagues are mostly Gen Z. In Frota, you may be just in that category of that generation. What is it that attracted you to Guarantee Trust Bank? Why have you stayed there? What are you looking for? Because here we're in a safe space because we're in HR. What is it that you feel is not working? If I was to get this organization that is offering this flexi time, it's offering this kind of perks, that's where I'll jump into. Thank you. Thank you for that. Maybe the second last, then we can have the last, and then we kick it off so that we are able to cover what we have. Who is going next? Jacinta? You want to tell us something? Bet Kiprotich. Anything? We're just introducing ourselves in terms of the names and where you come from and any expectations for this training that we are looking at. And our topic today is how to attract and also how to retain top talents. So we'll unpack the two. There's the part of attracting and there's also the part of retention. And we have said we are looking at retaining the high potential employee or the talents in our organization. And we said attrition is not bad at times. Mm-hmm. But Anthony, that's not Nancy Okita, please proceed.
Okay, good morning. My name is Nancy Okita. Mm-hmm. I work for Shelter Freak as the human resource manager there. This is a development financial institution in the housing sector. My expectation is retaining this Generation Z. So you find we work with different countries in Africa. And the rate of exiting is so high because we are free to work in any country. So I just want to know, how do we retain that, especially the notes? So.
Okay. The attrition rate is too high for Gen Z, and that has kept on. It is something that has accumulated over the time, from the right time or when the time of the baby boomers, we've come to Generation X, Y, now we are at Z. And that kept on accelerating. I can tell even you, when you started working, you had like the Generation Y, we could say if someone serves you for a period of 3 months, you are lucky, they have done whatever and they hate, because these are generations that really want to grow very fast. That is why they're looking, do we have those career progressions? Do we have those opportunities they can grow? Because I can tell you most of them, before they move, they don't move in the same positions. These are people who want to get to the CEO's position and heads positions and the GM position in 5 years. Some of us can tell I've stayed for this long period before I even got my first promotion. But for them, they'll say, it took you 10 years to get to a manager's level. They would rather quit than wait for that long. So what is it that is motivating them? What are they looking for? Where are they coming from? That is the kind of things we look at. And I always tell people, for those who are probably in my age, look at your kids. How are they behaving? Look at how they behave with the gadgets. Look at their level of reasoning and how they reason. Because the children we have, it's my sons and my daughters that are joining the employment at this point of time. So even how it is coming from the society, how we bring them up, how they interact with the others, the schools we take them. When they come to the organization, their expectations and the standards are very high. For us, we were comfortable if you're just lucky to be given a desktop and a desk. What kind of technology do you have in your organization? So it's a whole debate together. And then when you talk to them even about their career aspiration, what do they want to become? Even the courses they did, are they the courses of their choice, or we force them because we want to hear we have doctors and pilots and lawyers in the house? And we dictated even how they choose. We've heard of stories of kids who have gone to degree and they have done their 5 years degree program, 4 years, and the day of the graduation, they come back and tell you, Mom, I did this for you. Here is your degree. Now allow me to follow my dreams. And the kind of dreams you hear, they want to be an artist. Mine, I have a 17-year-old who tells me he wants to be a Ferrari driver. And I want him to be a lawyer. So you can imagine now I have looked for a job and I placed him in a law firm or that organization. Is he likely to stay? When all his mind is how to leave the country and go to become a Ferrari driver. So it is a whole integrated process and a thought process of how the society has shaped them, how we have brought them up, and what are their expectations. And then there is also the dynamic nature of work. that the routine, mundane work that I'm ready to do paperwork, data entry the whole day and do the physical file, that is very boring for them. So do we invest in technology, in career progression that they can see in a path? If I do this, I go back to school, I do this, we are able to rise and how they can become and take your positions. These are the generations. I can tell you even in Generation Y, there are people who will come and tell you, I think you have overstayed in this position. It is you to move because you can move to another bigger position and you leave this position for us. And they'll even show you and articulate that, you know, if you are to get another job, you will grow. And what will mean you leave number 2 to move to where you are. Number 3 will move to where I am. A whole group of them, they have strategized. But if you are to make a movement because you're on top, you will move for all of them. Those are the discussions this Gen Z will have with you. These are people, even when you're coming for interviews, you'll not even ask them the routine questions. These are people who even can articulate the whole strategy they have crammed, and they can tell you, and they're interviewing and they responded like they're almost the CEOs of that organization. And all this they have learned from the internet, no practical. This is the kind of generations, for those old organizations, you'll hear stories of people who just left Form 4 at age 18, 19, and they went into employment. And now they can say, I've been in this organization for the last 34, 37, 38 years. What is the current generation? We finish, they do their Form 4, we take them to college and we take them to private. They finish the degree. Before, as they're looking for a job, we enroll them for master's. In 2 years or 1 year, they're done. If they don't get a job again, we enroll them for PhD, and they're coming to look for an entry position with PhD. They come to the office and they find Emily has just a diploma or the Form 4. What do you think they feel? They look at you like the old school. Just the way at home they look at us. They even wonder how we reason, because they see us as very old school. So how do we embrace them? How do we nurture them? How do we come with programs that are going to engage them? So those are the kind of discussion. Let me have the last comment and expectation from a man. I've had a lot of ladies talking, and I can see we have enough of them in this room. I can see Bet, kindly tell us something. I can see we also have, who else has eluded me? We had seen enough of them. Any comment? We are so many in this class. We want to know that we are safe in this room. Chris, tell us something, so that we don't dominate the floor. Then we can begin our presentation. Chris, would love to hear your voice. If you're able to unmute. As the last comment. If Chris is not able to do that, Bet, are you able to do that? Okay. Anthony, are you able to do that?
Well, I think one of the issues we have with the labor movement, there's too much movement in the labor, and one of the reasons is that we have not prepared ourselves for succession planning as organizations. It's a big gap in organizations, and therefore, when it is time for movement, the organization is caught pants down. We do not know what to do. So when the Generation Z come to ask for this job, we keep asking them, what is your experience? They tell you, I know a lot. They tell you, I know a lot. Give me the opportunity. Yeah. And all they want is an opportunity. It doesn't matter how many years of experience they have. And one of the reasons we are not able also to retain top talents is we don't grow our employees into senior positions. We just keep telling them, do what you are employed to do, do what you are employed to do. After some time, they got a bit fatigued. They get a bit fatigued and they say, I cannot just be in one position doing routine jobs all the time and never growing. So what is the next thing? I hear a job. And this time around, I'm not even looking for career progression. I'm looking for money.
Yes, money. To buy the next Subaru.
as long as I get a 5,000 shillings increment, I will say I have progressed. So career progression has been equated to movement with money. So people want to move with money, and they don't care whether it is a career progression or not. That's my
Very
take.
fundamental, Anthony, and thank you for that. In fact, that brings me to the next questions. How prepared are we? Or is just a debate that we are having, staff retention, people are coming and going. When we attract these people, we onboard them. Do we have sufficient structures to sustain them? When you talk about HR instruments, you can candidly look at your organization. How many HR instruments do we have? We can just name them. You have a very robust HR policies and procedures manual. Do you have your manpower plan? Do you have competency framework for all your roles? Do you have a performance and a functional performance management tools? Do you have training frameworks right from the TNA so that you get the needs? And when you go to training, are you responsive to the TNA or it's per diem? It's who is close to the ears of the boss and they can go for training. So when we go for training, are we addressing the training gaps and the needs that we have identified, and we use training as an intervention? So are those tools in place? Are they functional? Are they operating? Because if you have all those functional tools, then you can be able to apply them. You'll find when we come to performance management, which is a way of engaging that we will see, sometimes even as in HR, we fail because we take it as an activity of ticking the boxes. It is even how do we measure ourselves in KPI, the number of people who have filled the performance. But we go back and analyze what story is told in those performance appraisal tools. And how do we do it? What is it that we measure? How do we keep the feedback? Because these people are actually thirsty for feedback. If you are doing a performance management and you don't even get the feedback because you just fill the forms, they go to the head of the department, zinawekwa in a big file, you just come and sign, forward to HR. HR, we have a checklist. Rhoda has submitted, Susan has submitted, and that is it. We are done. Why are we doing performance appraisals? Is it a routine, a requirement, a compliance, or is it a performance improvement tool that we are using so that we could identify development gaps and then come up with the interventions? I've seen your comments, Chris. Chris is unable to unmute, but he has written on the chat. He said he's in a private sector within the recruitment and currently facing a lot of challenges in terms of replacing staff lost through poaching by big companies. That means this is an attrition of high potential, high performing employees and to bigger companies with far higher salaries and budgets. That could also happen, and that is happening in private because they are looking for where the money is. How did they know that the other organizations is paying more than you? It is when you hear about, let's say like when you hear about EABL, Safari Home, what comes to your mind? You have not even thought about their HR, but as an organization, when you hear of those big brands, what comes to your mind? Big opportunities, bigger money, bigger incentives. He wants to dress and drive the vehicles of kind of people who are actually working in those organizations. So it's a brand visibility of. So he's hoping to learn how to go about beyond monetary to attract and also retain our staff. And we look at that. Of course, even the people who are working in the government, they are restrained in terms and limited in terms of the salary you can offer because SRC has given you the minimum and the max and you cannot go beyond that. But you find also within the same government, there are some parastatals and institutions that pay far much bigger than any other. You will go to an institution and you hear the highest, even the MD can earn maybe 400,000, 5,700. You'll go to another, a manager is earning 800, 600,000. Those are the same government organizations, but maybe some are generating revenue, they can make their own money, and they have been given a different grading and classification. So you'll also see, in fact, when I go to an organization and say, who are the people who coach your organizations from your organization? Because you can identify the 5-4. where your employees have gone. The most interesting thing, even for me as a HR and the head of HR, I have sat down in the exit interview to really convince people, what can I do? That is the time you want to rush to the board, give them a counter offer, and they tell you that time they're just looking at you and say, I wish you know where I'm going, rather. You're not able, even your structures cannot, but you're telling me to stay and you cannot retain me. And 10 years down the line, again, we meet in where they went. And now you really understand why they had to go. Because what I always say, even for you, the first thing, you're an employee before you became a HR. So what is it? Do you do surveys and the benchmarks to understand what is it that they are doing? Even that initiative on itself, apart from the salary, which is beyond your control, and probably, what else do they do that you can do? Probably they have a career progression guidelines, their capacity building, they have a training school. What is it that within the small budget, within you can pick 1, 2, or 3 things? You may not be able to pick all that. So that is the kind of discussions that we are going to have today. So you'll allow me to go right into my presentation, but you'll see much of these things is what we are discussing. But I always like having that openness so that we can maybe have a very good interaction, because now we know each other. So as we go into the discussions and the slides, which we'll have by end of this class, that you can always make reference to, we have a common understanding, and we can start interrogating. What did you mean by this, Rhoda, when you said that? This we have tried in our organization and it's not working. Jacinta, I see your comment. I work as a HR manager in an audit firm. My expectation is to learn how to attract and retain Gen Z because they are always on the move. Chris is saying during an exit interview, they were open to share. Their even offer letter, actually, they'll show you. They'll tell you, I'm moving to KRA. This is what they have given me. Can you give me a counter offer? I can tell you, I've also done the same to a board. And they say, Rhoda, you cannot move. You cannot leave us because you've been giving these proposals. What is it that you can? And I said, this is what I've been talking about. This employer has given me an irresistible offer. Are you ready? Because I don't have anything against you. But they say, just go, 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 go. It's now they look back and say, these proposals that we were having, it's not that we could not afford. Let's now start looking into them and trying to implement something. But as a HR, you also have to give those proposals, the board papers, understand the business so that you can also understand the affordability. I'm lucky most of you are coming from private. You should be at the heart of discussions of the operations and also the business so that you are able to understand the business financials. And for you, take it as I'm enabling that business. I'm facilitating that business to make more money. And you tell them, if we recruit this number of employees and you are able to retain them for this period, the productivity will be high because these are high performance and will be able to recoup. So you must be able to also talk that language of return on investment, especially for those, unless those who are in the NGOs, of course, you may not be able to apply that. The people in private, I'm looking at you. You must be able to understand your organizational financial turnovers, the financials, and see what is your operational cost and how can you enable and drive the business to make more revenue so that you can also spend more. That way, you'll be able to speak with the business leaders and they will hear you, because that kind of attrition, of course, it affects even the bottom line. It's not just you, also the people who have been left because of the burnout and a lot of work. So that let's allow me to put up my slides so that we look at what we have prepared. And of course, we will start by attracting. What is attracting talents? Top talents here we talk about. What do you understand by the term attracting the top talents? Mm-hmm. And what are some of the ways you attract people to your organization? Let's start our debate from there. Chris said probably they are unable to replace, meaning probably they are unable to attract to your organization. Look at your organization as a brand. What are some of the strategies you have employed to be able to attract top or the high talent in your organization. And I'll take you back to the school days. There are some organizations that used to come to the university and they take the top talents. The KPMG have recruited the top 3, and those people are picked right from campus. So for your organization, how are you preparing yourself to attract people to your organization? Quickly. I just want to hear like 3 of them. 3 ways that you think you can attract top talent to organization. That someone would love to work for you.
Yes, I think this is where we go down to the company branding and actually what other people can say your company is all about. Like, how have you brought out the company out there such that when people hear the name, they associate it with something like something that can actually pull them to work with you.
Great, Bunnies.
Yes.
I don't know why I'm having it. Try to put my video. You can hear me clearly?
Yes, Rhoda, you're clear.
Okay, just some echoes. Bunnies has said it. So that tells you as HR, you cannot work alone. Who does your branding? Is it your marketing? Is it your business development? So when you go to your website, every employee as they come, or you invite them for an interview, even for you, where do you go first? Whether you get from the newspapers, you will always, when you're doing our research, go to the website of that organization. Do we have any feel of you as an employer from your website? What do you post in your website? I've seen organizations posting issues like, we had our CEO gracing the Valentine, issued maybe some flowers to some customers, or there was this recognition among the employees, there was this team building, here we have directors interacting with the staff. That pictorial and that feel of your website talks a lot about your organization. You also start looking at the people's faces. Do they look welcoming? Are they social? Is it a place that I would want to work in? Would I be part of that team? Look at what we have put on that screen. Would you want me to be part of that team? Or you'll be ashamed to be represented or to be part of them? It talks volume. How we brand, how we place ourselves as an employer, as a brand or an employer of choice goes into that. The other thing is, how are you felt by the communities? The society around you through maybe what we call the corporate social responsibility. Is there an organization that has come to your knowledge because you saw them participating maybe in the Stanchart Marathon, the Matterhart Run? They have done these initiatives. They have recognized their employees. They have put them. Imagine even like schools, what schools does after they post the results. There are some schools you'll see, they have posted a whole page of their candidates and their scores. Don't we look for that when you're looking for those high school? And you'll say, this school has performed. I want my child to join that school. The same case that happens. The other issue is, what is your company culture? Another big challenge. How would you describe your organizational culture? And who are the custodian of the company culture? It's HR. Of course, it has to start from the senior management. It is shaped from the board. How do you recruitment? How you interact with each other? What is that culture? Do you even like the culture of your organization? That tells a lot about how you attract people to your organization. Let's say another one. Then, thank you, Bunny. So we have to, how you brand, how the culture is felt. Anything else? Capacity building, as Chris has talked about. I can tell you in one of the organizations I was working, which was a big brand, Standard Chartered Bank 1 point. And then you could meet when I was doing my master's, those years of 2006. The people I could meet in class, they were employees from EABL. And as you're struggling to pay your fees, you could find a whole group of 10 in the same class. And they say, You ask them, by then the fees this time, we are paying about 120,000. We are talking about 2006 then. They hear, when do you pay the whole fees? Our employer is doing 80%. So if the fees is per term is 120, I'll only pay 20. The employer is paying 100. And I can pick the masters of my choice. Capacity building. How do you think I could feel? That became my dream organization to work in. Unfortunately, I still have the dream to work in it. What else? How you build your capacity, the kind of culture you have. What else do you think will be able to attract people into your organization? How your employees and your ex-employees talk about you. Employees are your number one ambassador. When they are out there, who has ever tried to check, as you're looking for this job, you've been invited for an interview, you go to the internet and you're just looking about the review of that organization. Because there are people who will go on there and say, this is a very good employer, this is a nini. What is the review that you get on those websites? How is your organization spoken about even by your clients and your customers? How is your brand experience? Those are some of the things that we look at. So fast forward, let's see. So we're going to look at some of the 5 ways you can attract people in your organization. And here we are talking about 10 top talents. And at a high level, you're going to look at, the first one is the company. We'll look at 5 of them. And the first one is the company culture. And we say the culture of your organization, it's a very critical point, and it will determine how people feel about you. Allow me to stop sharing videos because I'm getting an echo from my end. So how to attract and retain top talents. So one of them is the company culture. And we always say, there's this saying that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. For me, I add that your organizational culture can eat your whole strategy and all your plans for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. That everything that you plan, however big the strategies is, they can be eroded by a poor company culture. So this culture makes a difference to the positive and to the negative. So if people feel engaged, they feel heard, they feel part of the business, part of the organization, then they are likely to perform. And they are likely also to sell your organization to the other potential employees. So we say having the right company culture in a workplace can make all the difference when it comes to making a position more marketable for potential employees. Again, we continue to say having the right culture for the right talent would include issues like fostering an inclusive and diverse environment. How do your employees feel? Do they feel like you are inclusive of everybody? There is equality in your decision-making and opportunities that are there. Do we provide opportunities for flexible working? And this is where Gen Z come in. They don't want to work in this routine of 8 to 5. You must be in your desk. How do you even, when you talk about the flexible working hours, there are people who can work very well, even remotely and hybrid. Do we though have those flexibility? Or for us, someone has to clock at 8, unless you are casuals, and at 5, and any wastage, even 5 minutes, hinting into the lunchtime or extending lunch, it becomes almost a disciplinary issue. Are you able to understand the diversity of employees you have and how they work well? Even among us here, there are people who are very good in morning hours. There are those who are very good who are night owls. I'm one of those night owls that I can sit here up to 3, 5, doing something and I'll do it. So how do we even gauge our performance? Is it based on the number of hours you work? Or is it based on the impact you make and how you achieve your targets? How do you do our performance? that we say you've been coming late because you've been coming at 8:30. But are they achieving their targets? And how do you measure them? Do you have a functional performance appraisal or a performance tracking tools so that you are able to engage? One of the things you'll find with Gen Z, they want to be engaged throughout. But once you identify their goals, then you are able to track them, give them feedback, and show them how they are progressing. Everybody wants to hear that feedback, that we are on this project, this far we have made milestones, we are lagging on this, we need to put more, what kind of support do you need? You work with them with the journey. It's not a matter of waiting. We give you our goals and targets at the beginning of the year until December. That's when we'll start talking about performance appraisals. We are in the month of March. And for the people working in the government, the year starts from June. It starts from July to June. You will find there are some employees who are supposed to do end of the year appraisals as come maybe May, June, but they have not even set their targets at this point in time. So they have just been coming to work, working, and then come May, that is when everybody starts now rushing to come up with targets, to come up with plans, and 2 days after that, you appraise them against that. How many of us have experienced that in their workplaces? And when we come to this appraisal, it is the filling of forms and populating and storing them in box files and making a checklist. So there was no performance plans at the beginning of the period. There was no monitoring of those performance. And that means there was no room to give feedback. And if there were any performance discussions that were there, they were not objective and they were not structured. They were just based on incidences. And maybe those incidences are not even part of the core functions and the responsibility of that employee's job description. We are basing our discussions on occurrences rather than from pre-agreed and predetermined goals and targets, which need to be monitored in every month, every quarter before they accumulate to the end of the year. Because even very high potential employee, they really desire to know how they are making progress, whether they are making an impact, how much they have contributed. But if they come into your organization and you keep quiet and there is no conversation, as we will see, there are no engagement, they become disengaged. Over time, it builds into dissatisfaction. And as they are bored, disengaged, dissatisfied, what happens? They start now being on the lookout. Who are employers? So any job advert they see, they look for it. And before they try, attend a few interviews, and before you know, they get a shocker. You can work in this organization better. And they're giving a bigger pay. Again, they go there, the same things happen, and they keep on moving. And I can tell you at that position for those, because you've been there, it is a point that they can keep on doubling their salary. You have given them, if they're coming from the colleges, probably you're paying them 50,000, 60,000, 70. The next employer they'll get 100. The next one they can, until maybe they reach a point of 500, and now they start mark timing and kind of start settling in, because even their social structures have changed. Now they have families, they have homes, and now they are looking at clearing those facilities and mortgages, so they kind of now start stabling up and staying in an organization. But as they are coming in, their losses are very few, so they're likely to keep on moving. So we need to understand that growth perspective of the employees. So again, giving a suitable level of autonomy to employees. These are not people that you're going to put in an office and dictate everything that they're going to do. Every employee, including you desire to have some level of autonomy. There's some decisions that are within you and your qualifications that you can make decisions of. But if there's nothing you can make decisions, you cannot determine how you're going to work, then it becomes very detrimental for those employees, and they feel like they are caged. And maybe even the people they are reporting to, they don't even understand what they're trying to do. So unless you give them some level of autonomy, of course, through delegation, but what you need to remember is delegation, you don't delegate responsibility. You can only delegate some roles and activities. So the accountability still stops with the leader who is delegating this. And even hosting a team lunch if possible. I've interacted with a lot of people, especially in the tech industry, where they have a lot of Gen Z. And what I've heard in those organizations, and this will properly fit with those people from the NGO and also from the private space, they host what we call team lunches. There's one organization I had from a very young man, actually, who was just coming to a HR. And in fact, he's an engineer, but now an engineer become HR. We'll come to that discussion. To also tell you the kind of dynamics that are happening in the HR space. That some of us, we have done HR, we are HR done. But in those organizations, because of the nature of work, even the people who sit in the HR are not HR experts. Or maybe they're HR experts in their own right, but they didn't have the foundational course as HR. Because that engineer had done the engineering, had the expertise in engineering. This is an engineering firm. But for you to become a HR expert with the current statutes that we have, you just need to do a HR diploma and currently CHRP. As we are brooding and weighing whether we have to do this HRP, they have taken their 1 year because of their degrees and masters, they are exempted some papers. Probably within 1 year or two, they become a HR professional and they have licenses and they are full members of IHRM. That's all what it needs for them. So because of the nature of the business and the kind of employees they have, because HR is an enabler, now they are the ones running the HR department. And they are listening to this Gen Z, what they want. So what they have come up with, that for them, every Thursday, it is a team lunch day. Partially funded by the organization and partially by the employee. So every Thursday from 2, they're allowed to go out in an agreed venue to do their lunch, and they close business. For those who are able to close business. I know there's some nature of job that we cannot close business. So what they'll do, they will decide, let's go to Carnival. It's a place of their choice. Because when you look at the group, they want to go to Carnival. They want to go to, some will say, let's go to a place like the Whistling Moran. Who knows it? I think it's in, is it in North River? And when they go do that, they'll go have their nyama choma, and after that, they go for go-karting, which is thrilling. For you where we sit, you'll not even hear of such activity. There are other people like in the NGO, their weekend starts on Friday at noon. And they have organized, actually as department, you are not going home. You are going for those job-related activities, team building, you meet, do lunch as you disperse. So those are some of the things that are engaging. Can you imagine your young tech saying he's an engineer or he's in this field, he's an IT, and they're going go-karting, courtesy of the employer or with the colleagues. Even the energy they bring back to the workplace on Monday, it is totally different. And some of them are actually ready to fund such endeavors because they take themselves out. Most of the time, their activities in the weekend, it is doing such activities. Now you give them that teamwork. Of course, daily basis, it might be difficult unless you have a staff cafeteria. Of course, there are those organizations, if you have good structures, you could come up with an employee pocket-friendly cafeteria where people can share meals. And when you're in that space of openness that I can sit with my boss, I can sit with the other person on the other corner, as you're sharing your meals and you have an easy discussion. And that actually builds on the company cultures. Others can do it on a weekly basis. We have maybe the terrific Tuesdays where we have pizzas, you buy one and get one free. Probably you are in a project or in the process of doing a project. And once people hit some milestones, those task forces and the group, maybe you could treat them to a pizza, or they could even contribute among themselves. Those are just initiatives. And once people start sharing such activities, then your culture and the workplace start being fun and a place people would want to stay. Then you can also have initiatives such as introducing small incremental changes. to your workplaces. It could even be remembering people for their birthday, issuing birthday letters. You don't need, of course, with time, you have to keep on moving because you'll say, you have given me a very good letter, madam. Happy birthday. You have remembered it's my birthday. You gave me a letter on a letterhead, just wishing me in the morning. They feel nice. But eventually they'll say, sasa hii barua haijakuja na keki. So you need to move very fast and think on your feet. Then you could add employees' testimonials in your career sites to provide candidates with a better insight in day-to-day working life. For us in the consultants, if you go to someone's website, you'll see what that client looked for. Even when you're designing, look at that photo. When you're designing, for those people in the tech industry, I could look at that. Even the how you design your organizational work plan and the offices. If someone who is building a building, this is actually just carving out these, they're called what? The fabricated material. These are cardboards on the wall. Paint them, carve. Someone can sit there and they're doing their, where do you meet your clients? Just to make the place maybe a bit vibrant if you have that space. Those are some of the things you can take. Then the next point, it is the company reputation. For those that have worked in organizations, maybe you've had an experience where something has happened and then the reputation of that organization is damaged through the print media, through the TVs, because something happened and then you are on the limelight. That will affect how people look at you and how you're able to attract your employee to your organization, how your company stands in terms of the reputation. Of course, if you're appearing on the media, how you mistreat your employee. You can remember that case that happened, I think, is it in Ruiru on Thika, where the HR was accused of stripping a female employees to such. What kind of reputation that and what kind of damage it did to that organization, it is something that can take you very long to recover. So your reputation as a company, as an organization is very key. So to attract the best talent on the market, it is essential companies to create a reputation as somewhere candidates want to go and work. And we say that companies well known for their products, their working practices, will be able to attract the strongest candidates simply on their reputation within a particular sector or even industry. You could even take issues like the career fairs. When IHRM calls for this, probably we want people to volunteer to go to schools for career fair. You're going to portray the name of your organization, because as much as you're introducing yourself and saying, I'm a HR practitioner, you're also saying, I work in such and such an organization. Even where we have come from, we have what we call the alumni organization. As an alumni, when you go back to those institutions and say, I'm a HR working, so you're talking to the minds of those people who will be talents, and they'll say, I would want to work. If someone who went through the same system is working in an organization, that can become a good organization for me to work. The third someone mentioned about this is career progression. How many of us, by show of hands, have a career progression guideline in your organization? Let me hear by show of hands. I see none so far. How many have a functional career progression guideline? Let me see. How many can say they have? Jacinta has said no. Felicitas, do you have? And do we understand beyond the HR policies and procedures manual, what is a career progression guideline? Clara, do you have a career progression guideline? You've been there for 8 months in your organization. Are you saying all of us don't have a career progression guideline?
Honestly, we don't have.
That is where the problem starts. We don't have, Susan. We do. Jem has. Yes.
We have, but the implementation is what is the problem. When you want to implement it, they bring the budget issues. There's a lot of issues that are brought up. It's there in the policy, but the implementation part of it is what you can't do.
Thank you, Nancy. And it cannot be in the HR policy. That's not a career progression guideline. A HR policy, it's a very high level. You cannot accommodate a career progression in a HR policy, because a career progression is one of the biggest documents and one of the biggest instruments you'll have in HR. Because a career progression takes into consideration all the positions that are existing in your organization and all the projected positions that are likely to arise in that organization. And it is arranged in a departmental structure. And it has the policy, the first few pages, it just tells you what you're supposed to do. And actually having a career progression guideline, it is not an approval for people to be promoted and for those positions to be filled. Or what it does, it is to create position. When you come like to HR as a department, it will say that HR can, how a HR officer who has reported today, not even an officer, a HR assistant or a HR clerk who has a Form 4 or a degree can come to an organization and they can exit that organization as a CEO or the GM or director of that HR. It shows what you require for every step for you to be able to rise from one level to another. But of course, implementation is subject to availability of those positions and also the approval. So it shows an employee, for me to move from this KCSE to a diploma, it will even tell you the specific course and the training that you need to undergo and the years of experience, and also the leadership and the competencies, skills, which are the soft skills that you need to build, to prepare. So that way, it's a whole roadmap and a path that you can see. For me to move from this, even from one organization, I'll have to do 1, 2, 3. So the employees start now moving with you, preparing themselves, getting ready for taking up those positions. Career progression will also show how one person can be promoted from one level to another. And you'll also come up with now policy directions like for these levels, maybe apart from the top 2, let's say the CEO or maybe the GMs and the directors, that those positions that, because we have built our capacity. So when you come even to performance management and training, it is aligned to the career progression guideline and the organization structure. So you know that you have built a talent pool that if those positions come up, you can even fill them through internal promotion. That before even going out, you'll do an internal advert, you'll do internal promotions for people once they have all that because they know the organization. Even before probably you go out. But you could leave maybe the top position, you say these have to be competitively, but still, because the internal people have the career progression, they have known how what it takes for them to get to that level, they'll also be very competent and competitive candidates for those positions. That is why you see in some organizations, there is a clamor for some courses like what we call the SLDP or Strategic Leadership Development Program, the supervisory courses, the operational courses, the CHRP. Now employees are able to know that even in your policy, you have to come up with professional and statutory courses because those talks to the career progression. So employees can even take 5 years or 10 years to start from supervisory, go to senior management development courses, go to SLDP, and some even get this money from their pocket and finance themselves in readiness to take those positions. That way, someone is looking at something and you're engaging them and they have signposts of where they move. And now, even with this other dissatisfaction and issues of the money, they have a place they are going. You can see even these people in there, they know, they are very focused, they know where they want to go. But if people just stay in a motion, they don't know when promotions come, they don't know what will be looked at, even in incorporating issues of the last performance, then they operate in a vacuum. So this is one of the biggest tools for career progression, and this is actually what engages. And when you come to your promotions, ensure your career progression is also considering issue of the previous performance, the qualification, the competences, and all that. So people will have something to look forward to. So if you're missing career progression, I can tell you government has the best policies around. If you have someone who is working in the government, please ask, can I see your career progression? And then you tailor it to your need, because if you go to a government institution that does like immigration and you're in engineering, they may not have those professional courses like engineering. So you could only get issues like the HR, the finance, the procurement, and see and borrow and tailor it to your needs so that you can come up with a career progression. It is you to come up with them, propose, and then probably look for someone who can make for you that, and then you try to introduce it into piecemeal. By the time maybe you start implementing, people will start seeing the beauty of it, the good. Of course, you start with resistant, but then if you're able to follow it, there's a lot of buy-in and you're able to influence a lot of people. So what is a career progression guideline? Of course, for the old organization, they'll tell you they have the schemes of service. Scheme of service will not have the JD, and it will just pick the specs. But a career progression actually gives the title, the reporting, like a whole JD, the responsibility of different and the authority matrix, and it also look at the competencies of that role. Here we don't look at people, we look at the competencies. And for you to be able to fill those competencies, then you rely on the competence-based or the competency framework, and also now specs in terms of the academic qualification, professional qualification, and also probably the years of work. So for every role, so you'll find like in a HR department alone, you may have like 8 positions in HR. 8, not 8 positions, 8 roles. Like a director, that is the function, the responsibility, and the qualification level. Then you come a deputy director, maybe the head of department, the senior management, to be a manager, to be maybe a chief officer or a senior officer, to be an officer, to be an assistant, to be a clerk. But then you imagine in those 8 ranks, you can have multiple numbers. You can say like HR assistant, I need like 10 packs. HR officers, 10 packs. And maybe you want to concentrate on talent management, another one to do performance management, another one to do training, another one is onboarding and training, another one is payroll, another one not, but in their different cadres of maybe the same qualification. So this is one of the biggest tools that you need to research on. You need to look for materials a lot of organizations have and try to build your capacity on it and introduce to your organization. So we say the prospects of career progression is often fundamental in candidates' decision to accept a job offer, because you can see, yes, maybe you're not in a senior role, but I can see there's potential for me to grow. That I can move from this manager level, I can go to a senior manager level, I can go to a HOD, to a GM, and then you start working along that. To come back to my point, the case of engineering, I've seen many organizations where we are crying as HR that even that person is not a qualified HR. What is a qualified HR according to our HR Act? All what you need is to have a license with the IHRM and to have done the professional course. And now currently is CHRP. And I can tell you, you'll be registered and you'll be a professional and of good standing. So where most of us as professional to challengers, we are being beaten, we have concentrated in so much that, and then our profession has become so easy for every person to come into it and to change from one department to another because of the very minimal requirement. But what is happening, other people depending with the organization, because I like the way you're introducing yourself. I'm in the tech space. I'm in the medical space. I'm in engineering. I'm in the civil. I'm in the aviation space. The people who have mastered, I'm in a financial institution. Those people have done all that and mastered the operations. They'll just go and do 1 year, invest in HR, then they become your HR. And the reason is some businesses or many organizations are feeling a disconnect of us as HR with the business. Because all what we talk about is pension, leave, medical leave, performance appraisal. They feel like we don't understand the business language. We don't know why this organization is existing. We don't know how we have to meet the bottom line and the bus. All what we go is to ask for budget. And they feel we are not responsive to business needs and we are not facilitating, we are not enablers. And that is why you can see even in our department, we have a lot of people who have grown from administration, from support, and they can comfortably do the fundamental issues of HR. But HR is very wide, it's very strategic. And it's for you to decide which area of HR do you want to master that has the biggest impact in terms of the HR and how HR is felt in the business. You can decide, I want to be an expert in talent management. I want this person to reckon with when you talk about performance management. I want to be this person who is instrumental in talent management or maybe capacity building and training. Pick a niche and know. But it also depends at what level you have done. Because if you've done the entire HR in a cycle for 20 years, 10, you have known everything. But what is it that resonates with you, that touches you, that you feel you'll have the biggest impact? If it's career progression and you follow it to the letter. If it's policy formulation, feel free to do that. So as you're doing enough to develop your existing employees, that is the people in your organization, establishing a tailored professional development scheme. Of course, we said people leave because organizations don't develop them. Have we tailored a professional development scheme that is predetermined? And do we make sure that these opportunities are discussed with the candidates and the employee? Having career progression guideline and policy is not enough, because some of us, we just tick the box and say we have a career progression guidelines, but is it known and well understood by the employee? Do we take time to sit down, discuss with them? Even when you come with those career progression guidelines, a consultant will give you an outline. But the outline of that and a skeleton of where need to be, like people with masters, they fit in this, masters plus professional plus senior management fit. You just draw a skeleton structure. But in terms of the roles and the responsibility, the professional requirement and development in each career professional line has to come from the people, the subject matter experts and the departments. So you draw with them. So you will pick, like, tomorrow I'm in procurement, or this week I'm in procurement. Understand the language of the business, understand how their professional development, the courses they have, and then you feel it. Don't do it alone. Work with every department, let them come up with their own. For you, it's just to guide in terms of the structures, the qualification, and the requirements. And then, because you have the bird's eye view of the entire organization, that way they will understand from the drafting level. So by the time you go to the approval, any amendments, engage them, public participation. Until the final approval, then you'll have to cut that document. And if it's procurement, this is what we discussed, this is the end result. They will prioritize, they will work with it, and they'll embrace it. In every, whether you're talking about the secretaries, about the drivers, have a conversation. That is where you make or break those career progression. If you sit at the corner of your office as HR and you think you are the expert and come up with it alone, it is not likely to peak and it's not likely to be operational. And you'll not find buy-in, so you will struggle and you'll say, I have, but it's not operational. I can tell you the heart of discussion of HR is conversations and discussions for your instruments to be accepted. So make sure these opportunities are discussed with your candidates who are your employees during the recruitment process when they are still candidates, and also even in promotions. They should know, by the time I'm being invited for this promotion or interview, Rhoda will look for 1, 2, 3, and they'll tick and they'll make an application for that. If they know they don't have professional membership, you can come up with a policy that will only pay for 1 or 2, depending with the level, professional membership and those subscriptions. The fourth point in terms of attracting is you need to provide a competitive salary and benefits, not just salary, because salary can be limited because of many factors. Of course, if you work in your same industry, the customers you have, the turnover, the budget, the investment determine how you are able, because the salaries has to be within what is affordable by your organization. But there are other benefits that you can also explore over and above the salaries. So the truth is, money talks. As much as we want to say how we want to motivate them with money, the first and the fundamental thing that we can never run away from, money talks. And I'll challenge you, if your employer comes and tell you, I want to half your salary, by 50% today, are you saying, yes, I understand my employer, I'm good to go. I will stay because I'm in HR, I need to be motivated. And someone comes and give you double, are you not going to move? You as HR, as much as we want to judge our employee. So the truth is, money talks, even in our society. Even now that we're having hard economic times, money talks. And that is probably why some of us decided to take training as a hobby, as something we can do, as a side hustle, that Monday to Friday we are engaged in other activities, but when we find time, I could be sleeping, you decide to do because money talks. Because there is what we call the personal, individual motivation and strategies and what your organization can do for you. So money talks, let's never forget about that. So the best practitioners will want to be paid their worth because they have invested in themselves. So most employees will gain additional job satisfaction based on how well they earn. And that is why they look further. So as you're looking and dealing with your salary policies and also coming up with salary structures, always benchmark with the very best. You can get that information from published salary surveys from PayScale website to see how they relate so that it can help you come up with maybe competitive rates. You can also compare your rate with similar job posts of comparable organization. And mark my words, comparable organization. And that is why you need to understand your financial statement and your financial strength. So that when you go to benchmark, go benchmark for similar jobs, but organizations of your size. I've had organizations who are coming to benchmark with some of the organizations probably we have worked with. But when you compare two, you may be in the same business, but you're 2 poles away. You're coming to compare your salary with a giant where probably I'll say in a financial institution, let's say we don't have tier 4, sorry, a tier 3 bank, and you want to benchmark your salary with a tier 1 bank. Where you find in a tier 1 bank, both organizations have the CEO. But in a tier 1 bank, the CEO could be earning 3 million. In your tier 3 organization that you want to go benchmark, the CEO is a salary of 600,000. So the other organization. So those are not comparable. So you need to know what is your revenue, what is your turnover, what is your balance sheet value. So for you to be able to understand what is your niche, what is your clientele, so that you compare an apple for an apple, an orange for an orange. So that is one of the things that you need to when you go for salary surveys. It must be comparable organization and comparable jobs. So, and in addition, benefits like decent leave, the bonuses, the performance incentives will attract top talents. So what kind of leave do you have? Do we just have the basic leave like 21 leave days as provided in the Employment Act of 2007? Now we have added pre-adoption leave because it's compulsory. Or do you go ahead? There are many organizations that they didn't even have to amend their policy because they already have the adoption leave. The organization who even put sportsman leave, compassionate leave, sick leave for a period of 6 months with pay and 6 months with no pay. How many of those people you'll have those kind of incidences? By the time someone is out because of sickness for a whole year and the size of organization, it can attract and make people feel like they are wanted. Bonuses, however much is small, that it is tied to the performance. Performance incentives will actually attract you. So some of the top benefits attract great talent. We look at them very quickly. It's just the things that we've talked about. Health insurance, a medical cover. Are you able to come up with a medical scheme for your employees? And in that medical cover, what is it that you cover? Do you have issues like the optica cover, the dental covers, the maybe what you call the health assessment or reviews for the families? Do you have retirement benefits? Do you have gratuities for people in contracts? What kind of leave? Flexible time. Nursing mothers, do you give them some flexible time that they can come in comfortably at 10 or leave at 3? Maybe for the first 3 months. Do you encourage your employees to take the paternity leave? So those are some of the things, some of the incentives you can look. Things like flexible schedules. Going back to the health insurance and the medical covers and the retirement, and also maybe issues of leave. Here mostly, we are talking about all generations. The baby boomers, the XV generation, the retirement, they look for this. And these are basic. Because there is an employee who will leave a very big employer because what and the position and the status they have in their family at this point, they're looking for a sound health insurance because maybe in their family, they have cases of children or themselves who are struggling with health issues. So for them, health insurance becomes very fundamental. And when we are onboarding staff and we are doing, when you go to negotiate, you look at the entire package, not just the salary. In fact, there was a time I warned as an employee because the wife was going to India, they were going through the treatment, and they wanted to know what is our medical cover, how do we deal with these cases if I exhaust, do we have an ex gratia package, do you have an excess of loss, how do you pack that? Dental, expound them, load them. These are actually some of the incentives because they don't appear on our pay slips that people take for granted and they are easily forgotten. Yet we have them. So when you're onboarding your employees, you are negotiating, tell them we have a very good medical cover. It covers pre-existing, it covers long-term illnesses, it covers a family or your family, maybe the spouse's problem, how many kids do you have, issues of dental, blow a lot of this. Retirement, because these are people, these are kind of benefits that are not in the payslip. People forget about them and they may not understand the whole value of the benefits that you have. Then when you come to Y and Z generation, they're looking for flexible schedules. A flexible schedule that can be an excellent selling point for many employees who need to balance work and life and home, allowing employees and the people who are even having young families, allowing employees to adjust their schedule to include advanced studies or other responsibility can make the work environment more attractive. Maybe these people who have come, they want to do their masters, they want to do their study. So you can tell them we have exam leave. You can be allowed when this is approved to do that. They would love to hear that. Remote work options. You can tell them, you can always discuss with your supervisor when you're not able to come and you can agree, even the people in the tech, what they want is performance. And allow if that IT department want to work in a hybrid, as long as they're supporting the system, let the supervisor run with that. And let them have targets that are achievable, that are speaking to the strategy so that you can be able to do that. So work from home opportunity has become far more mainstream in the past years, especially with the COVID. And many employees appreciate the ability to work from home, even in a hybrid capacity, including the studies. That is why we are able to do these classes in a webinar. This can also be beneficial for companies because they can cut down on overhead and also downsize to smaller offices and save in matters of rent, electricity, utilities, the tea you serve in the office. So these are options that we should be open to as HR. Wellness benefits. Some companies offer health club memberships or maybe discount health club membership. And I always give an example of even when you don't have a lot of money to take people to Muthaiga golf clubs, the Karens, the Royal clubs, the Parklands, you can even partner with public clubs that are around you. The public service club, where you can even pay a minimum of about between 50 to 100 in a whole year. And then we agree, we'll have our staff come in to use the club and the facilities like your pitches, your nini, all that. And then it is not likely that your employees, all of them, will go to that club at a go. So you give a subscription of about 100 employees. So they can agree on a Friday, see, we go play soccer. We meet at the club, we do that. Of course, there are people who like doing those games. If you're able to have a gym in your workplaces, because of maybe the nature of job, these are some of the things that are attracting people. So with a subscription of between 50 to 100, you can book a public club, the likes of the railway, and then you give a number of employees like 50, 100, and then they can organize themselves because they'll go in groups. Visits like yoga clubs, maybe aerobics, wellness treatments, and then issues like even mental health, issues of stress, work-life balance, personal financial management, you can throw them all there. Education and career growth opportunities. This one, we have really talked about it, and it's something to really consider. We say some benefits you might consider offering are things that benefit the employee's career trajectory. Many employees will look for positions that can help them grow professionally. You can help with this process by offering tuition reimbursement after they bring the certificate, exams leave, or even career training options for your staff. Then issues of employee savings account. For those who are not in the financial industry, you can think about, do you have membership to SACCOs? There are organizations who have come up with their own SACCOs, however small it is, so that people have that saving culture, which actually will make people stay and they can borrow against their shares and guarantee each other. So a saving plans work, you can come up with them. I know there are those that have come. We have what we call the segment SACCOs, the industry SACCOs, or you can register your own and people will be participating in all those. So again, and then we have some incentives from the employer to support that kind of an endeavor, and also that conducive environment. Of course, flexible benefit system, that these are becoming more and more popular with employees and companies. These are like flex plans where employees get to pick the exact benefits of package, especially like when you want to convert people from contract to permanent and pensionable. For those who have been on contract, you can give the employees maybe a chance to pick what kind of structure. If someone says, I want a 5-year contract, we should have that flexibility. Don't say, at here you can only work on permanent and pensionable. I think those are things that, especially when you're in the private, that we can always try to discuss and be open to them for exceptional cases and maybe qualify and classify that. And the last one on how to attract is professional development, the CPD, professional statutory trainings, invest in them. So one of the frequent arguments against the investing in internal professional development is the concerns of training employee that they will leave your organization and you'll become like a training school. So the better question to ask yourself is, what if you don't train them and they decide to stay? And majority of them, apart from the Gen Z, have decided to do that. They have just decided, you have not trained me, I'm not going. So I stay. So we say great companies find the time and the resources to invest back in their people, consider both internal and external training so that you can now deal with this issue of budget constraint. So internal trainings, you can have instructors, you can have your trainers, you can build capacity that when you take people for expensive training, they come back and give it to the company by training. And maybe when people go, you can have policies when people go to the trainings, then they need to give a report or give that material in an intra software. Everybody can be able to access if you're in that kind of an industry. Then you could offer opportunities such as mentoring, job shadowing, cross-training of different courses like the customer care, emotional intelligence, professional development, leadership development, management development. And we say not investing in internal professional development could deter potential new hires and send existing talents to competitors that do invest in their own people. Even when you come to onboarding and induction, how long do you take to induct your employee and to onboard them? There are organizations that take a whole month to induct their employee until they are able to comfortably. There are those ones who just do the one orientation, that is go learn on the job on your own. So if you don't onboard your employees, you don't induct them, your colleagues will, and you have no control of what they'll be inducted into. These new employees may be seen as a threat by the people they are going into, and they'll say, this is not a place to stay. This boss will not promote you, you'll never go for training. So they'll do the converse of what you're supposed to do as a HR. So that is what we can discuss about attracting top talents. Any question? Let me pause there. We have structured this presentation into 3 thematic areas. The first one was how to attract. Then we are going to talk about how to retain this. And then finally, we can say, of course, when you come to retention, you will find attracting, you can see it is cutting across the policies, the structures, the instruments, and the organization. So when you come now to interrogate the biggest, how do we retain? And why do people go? Do people leave organizations, or do they leave the managers? So the kind of limitations we are seeing, we'll also see, apart from retaining, the issue of engagement. Mostly we lose the people who are not fully engaged. And you'll find among the maybe 33% of what the new employees we have in an organization, only 33% are engaged. The rest are totally disconnected and disengaged. So the third and the last part, we are going to look at how do we increase employees' engagement for them to stay in our organization. Any question on attracting before we proceed? Let me look at your comments as you also ask. You can unmute and just ask a question. Yes, Susan talked about rest, recuperation leave for those in hardship areas, of course, hardship allowances. Thank you, Susan, for that. I'm just reading your chat so that I don't miss anything. Anthony has said we don't, and even where employees want to progress themselves, they will not be supported. Actually, there are even organizations that when you hear an employee has gone for a further studies, they are trying to build themselves, they are seen as a threat. They're even mistreated. As you can say, they are not even supported. And then we ask where we sit in our corner offices, where are people living? Susan had talked that we don't have. Any question on attracting? Any addition? We are learning from each other. Or we can proceed on the 7 ways to retain top talents, which I'll go on a very high level. And that's why, because you can see we are repeating from the earlier discussions. Are we together? Or I'm on my own?
We are together, Rhoda.
Yeah, we are together.
Yeah.
So do we proceed? We are together. We are following the discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Rhoda.
Yeah, great. I
Yes,
think
yes.
that, okay. So allow
Maybe
me
a
to.
question.
Yes, kindly, Emily. Yeah.
Yes, you have talked of encouraging staff to develop themselves career-wise, right?
Yes.
Yes. Now, how do you convince these staff to develop themselves? Maybe when the institution does not support their progression career-wise.
Yeah. Emily, for me, as a HR profession and what I believe in, you have to be a role model. And I always tell people, HR is a very comfortable office and a corner office and a very powerful office that has to be feared by everybody who comes around. Because we have the powers to fire, to discipline, and terminate. So we can choose to take that powerful role and be that. And to be the moral police and the police for everyone. But I always tell people, who are you? Who is Emily? Who is Jem? Who is Rose? Who is Rhoda? What are you known for? For me, HR is like a calling. So for you, you must be able, the other people in the business may not understand the strength of capacity building and learning. But you do. It should be within, and I think this is how I got into the training. Do you have conversations with your employees, however lower they are? When you come up with a policy, do you try to understand whether they understand and you're in the same levels? Do you as HR leave the comfort of your office to go to the department, engage with the other senior managers collaboratively and discuss with employees? Me, I'm those managers who will meet you on the corridor when I say, hey, I like the way you're dressing, and maybe she's wearing an and what I want to tell her, she's indecently dressing. So I'll ask you, and you, madam, what is your goal? What do you want to do? I saw you did this and you stopped. Are you aspiring to go do your master's? You know, you can grow in your organization and you have 8 levels, and now you are the lowest, you've just come in. You have tested your salary, now it's nice, but we are going back to school. Have that conversation. Some will tell you, I was even forced by my parent to do law. Me, I'll not go to do master's, Rhoda. I'll not do what? Me, I want to own a bakery. So, by the way, when your son has a birthday or your daughter, I can bake for you a cake. It starts from that conversation. And before you know it, this employee will come back to you and tell you, and by the discussions we had, I think, what can I do? You'll even have people calling you, Rhoda, my daughter doing what to do this. Talk progression. Be a role model, even for you, Emily. Live by examples. Learning has no end. And the moment you stop learning is the moment you start growing. Even for those that will go to directors levels and the GM and the highest in the rank, it will come at a time, all these things that you're chasing by the time you change and you're on your 7th job, you reach the apex and you cannot go. And you start getting frustrated. And you may decide, let me take a step or two back and start and re-engineer by another trajectory and growth. So you are remaining relevant. Be the role model, lead by example. If you don't have those personal development courses, like even what you're talking about, supervisory, senior management, strategy, it is you to introduce them. Even the Kenya School of Government, those courses are very cheap. Introduce, invest in them, research on them, and go test them. There are many courses. I can imagine even the one when I went for my SLDP, it was not in my organization. I paid for myself. But since the organization could not and was not supportive, all what I asked, I need 6 weeks leave to go and do. So what I was asking, yes, you will not pay for me the 90 or 90,000 I'll pay, but all I'm asking is to be given time off work to do, because it's a 6 weeks program. You can imagine I didn't have to use my leave. That alone, by the time I was finishing this, it became so mainstream that people started fighting for it. So I can tell you today, I'm your trainer, but on the other end, I'm also a student in school today, in a university. So you cannot preach water and take wine. You need to have credibility that when you speak to these people and you tell them, they can also see it in your life. At times, the organization structures will not operate and will not support you. But what can you do within you, Emily? Whether you're going to talk to 2 boys, 3 girls who came probably because they had godfathers, you didn't like it. I know you didn't like it, but you have to coexist with them. They have no qualification. And they get comfortable because they have a salary of 80,000 and they are operating with people and earning the same salary as people who have been there for 20 years. It is good to tell them in your free time. It doesn't have, you can leave and go do. You can even tell them, this college, this university there, you can start from a diploma, you grow. Have those conversations. That is what we call mentorship. The organization might not take you for coaching and mentoring program, but you can start it from yourself and talk, engage them. You will find those conversations, communication, and engagement. It is what will pay. It is what will improve even that culture. You may be the only one, but before you know it, you'll find another manager in another department also have that kind of a spirit. So you will be 2, 3, and you'll be able to build on that. That's what I encourage people to do. Ask proactively, when are you doing your leave? I can tell you I've enrolled in courses, and by the time I'm on my 2nd week, I have colleagues, Rhoda, what are you doing? I want to come with you. And they join. Currently, I can tell you I'm a 4th year in the University of Nairobi, and I hack it. That is after so many years, and I have decided this is now the area I want to go. I want to engage, I want to do law. But you see, going for you as a HR to venture in another area, you have to do a whole investment. You can imagine if you are to turn to become an engineer, how many years do you need for a doctor? Compared to what I told you, someone else coming into HR. My friend, you'll have to do a whole graduate diploma and maybe postgraduate. It will take you about 6, 7 years to be able to comfortably go to another line. Are you ready to take a sacrifice for that? Of course, the moment we stay 1, 2 years, 10 years, we are too old. For me to drag myself at the age of mid-40 to go back to class with people who are age of my sons. It's not an easy, but it's a deliberate thing you have to make. Okay, Anthony, I can see your hand is up and your mic. You want to add to that contribution?
No, what I was feeling, Rhoda, is that even what we are doing right now is very key.
Yes.
Engaging in these Zoom trainings.
Yes.
Very key, because this is one of the progression areas that we are talking about. What is it that I have? What is it that I can add to my CV? Even when they are talking about tapping and retaining top talents, we are talking about somebody who has some level of training. Have you ever even gone for a day's training on tapping and retaining top talents? And this is where to begin. It may not be for 6 weeks, it may not be for 1 year, but this is where we begin. It's a starting point. Am I engaged in this? I'm actually imagining how many people should be in this training but are not. And this is where we begin. Yeah.
And I can tell you for free, I can tell you 80% of you have paid for yourself this course, not sponsored by the employer. Is that true? I can tell you majority, it is out of your proactiveness that you decided, I'll come for this course. Look, imagine you are talking about a budget. How much is this course? Is it 1,000 or 1,500?
15.
If you are to engage even the academy and tell them, you are this number of employee or even the supervisors, because this is a course that is not just for HR. It is just even for any other supervisor, because as we progress in terms of engagement, you'll see majority of your employees don't leave your organization. They leave their managers, because we have not even built the capacity of the department heads. And we always imagine because they are senior, they have what we call people management skills, and majority does not have. And say, can you organize for me a 3 hours training in my workplace? And you can imagine now how many we are, that we can even this training, he'll just give you a corporate training and he'll give you a rate. Who cannot afford that? You can negotiate with him. Then I want to pay 1,200, not in 15, because I want to have a class of 50. I can tell you he will not refuse to do that. Take any topic. What is it that is bothering you in your organization? Is it performance management? Is it poor people management that I want you to come and talk to our managers? He will give you a good rate. It is a good, you will see that actually retention stops us how we engage employees. So that is the way. And I'll not lie to you. You know, at times here we'll give very good presentation that the ground will be waiting for you and celebrating, and everything you speak, they're embracing. It is a deliberate thing that and you must be determined among you that what is it that I want to leave a legacy? That when I leave this institution, they will know there was a Rhoda, there was an Emily, there was an Anthony. In whatever role you are, what is Emily known for? Don't we have very junior people in our organization, maybe a HR assistant? But when you talk about welfare and medical issues, they know if I call Emily, I'm sorted. I don't even need to go to Rhoda. Once I talk to Emily, whether it's a CEO who has a sick child in the hospital, at the I'm sorted. That person is known for that. Even for us, we didn't start training in our organization. It is only now that we have come to head such departments and to run with such institution. We started like any other HR, but that passion kept on going, and on the side, today is a Saturday, we are not working, I'm not in the workplace. It's not conflicting with my job, because my job is Friday to Saturday. Now I'm here, I'm doing capacity, and you can see the things I'm learning from you. I can also tell you, without a fear of doubt, that this institution also, as an academy, it is just for HR professionals. You'll even get those opportunity to hone those skills. Talk to them anytime. You tell them, I want to train that course, or this course that Rhoda has done next time, and you'll be the one training. Because we are not here all the time. That is how we grow each other, okay? So allow me to go to next. I can see now we are following each other, and I'm happy with that. And you can see the beauty of discussion. I see we have 1 hour to go. So you'll also allow me, if I rush through the slides, feel free to stop me, but I'll take the same pace so that we finish that, so that I don't leave anything. Then we'll come to the discussion. And I love this class because of the contribution we're having. Allow me to put my slide back. Can you see my presentation?
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me do that again. Just a minute. I have to put it on slideshow first. You can see it, but not on slideshow. All right. Think we are good now. So let's look at 7 ways in a very high level, 7 ways to retain top talents. And the first one, we are talking about identifying retention as a strategic issue. As I was listening to you, it is not in doubt that retention is an issue in our organization. It is affecting our turnover and also our revenue because of the high cost of replacement. Someone said, I'm really struggling to replace my high talents when they leave. So the time that you are struggling, by the time that top talent leaves, to the time you struggle and then identify another one, and then the one you bring on, you need time to induct them, to onboard them, to recruit them. And by the time they start picking the performance to the level of the person you have exited, the cost is too much. There's loss of performance, loss of productivity. There's the cost of recruitment. There's also the psychological costs in terms of the people who have been left in the organization. Because you can imagine how a top talent operates. This is one person who can even do the job of 3 people. That's why we identify high productivity and their top potential employees. So by the time this other person comes and fits into that, the work hours and the productivity has been lost, it is too much. This comes in terms of performance and also the cost of recruitment. So we have to identify staff retention as a strategic item. When you talk about anything strategic, it means it is something that we need to really prioritize at the center of everything we do in HR. How we come up with our HR instruments and the policies, we should always think about staff retention. We want people to enjoy their work and to stay. How you do your recruitment, always look at, is this a proper fit to come into our culture and organization? Are they likely to stay or are they likely to leave immediately they are inducted? When you come to coming up with HR strategy, which you derive from the business strategy or the overall business strategy, it should be at the heart of every business to retain that talent strategy. That even at every departmental level, that discussion of retention and talent management has to be. Because we realize the HOD and other senior managers are actually HR of their section. And the people management, the culture, relationship, how they relate, how they do their performance and carry out their job, the environment in a department, it is actually nurtured within the department of the business. So we must be able to take retention as a strategic issue. And I always tell people, do we contribute in the strategic planning? Do we have a HR aspect or a HR pillar in your strategy? And one thing that should never miss is how to develop your talent and to retain. So we say a talent strategy that is aligned to the business will help to consolidate your direct just a minute. your direct retention effort, because it is integrated and is being supported by everyone. The other thing that we note, this means that the senior management need to be as committed to retention of individual people managers. This is where we come with these programs of management and leadership development courses, because supervisors or managers highly influence employees and their employees' experience in the workplace. And we must be able to talk in one voice and be the role model to our employees. So from the senior leadership, we should be able to set a tone from the top and the role model behavior that demonstrates the value of every person within the organization. I'm sure we have experienced those cases where employees will, the supervisors will come and tell you, I cannot work with this employee, take them back, they have preferred people. They don't want to nurture the people. So we should also take time to develop our managers, because every manager of every section in our organization, they are basically people managers. They may have now grown from their technical everyday work, and now leadership is merely administrative. So they manage other people who are the doers. So until we develop our management capacity, and now the biggest challenge comes when we have HR who are in a level that is lower than the other managers. So you'll have a manager who is not easily to instruct or to engage with other senior people, because you'll have this senior manager of a core department who cannot take instructions from the junior HR. And that is why we have always been fighting that HR must be placed in a strategic levels at the table where they can discuss with the others at work, because it is our responsibility. And the most delicate part with this, there is no manager who have gone to a manager's level who will admit that they have people, they have challenges with people skills or management skills or leadership skills. They will not admit. And this is where we have the Johari window, the places you cannot see, but you have to be deliberate. And that is why even in performance management, I always advocate for having the two sections. Have the technical, the objectives of the work carrying about 70–80%. And especially in management and leadership, spare a whole 30–20% to competency-based kind of assessment. Because the managers have more power and they influence how people. And you cannot have people who are not performing and the manager is performing. That does not occur. So that their leadership skills, the people skills, and the other soft skills can be accessed at the competency level. You must also be deliberate to be able to analyze the leadership and the management and come with tailored courses. And most of these tailored courses will not come from the user departments of the managers. They think they don't need them. When it comes to, as a HR, you can proactively say, the people who are senior managers sitting in disciplinary committee, you need them to take them through disciplinary management process. If you know disciplinary is being done at business level, train them. Also organize another program on performance appraisals and feedback and conversation and appraisals. A lot of them don't have these skills. People management. And that is why we have those courses like supervisory management, because they are taught the soft skills, not the hard skills, because you have acquired them over time. So we say people leave managers and not companies. And this is a famous quote which is often repeated and is vitally important to employees' experience in an organization. And just as you should be focusing on development and opportunity for all people within the organization, so you need to focus on great leadership skills of the current and also your future managers. So as you do your normal induction when people come in, the new managers who are coming in, you should take them through their courses like new managers, people who have been promoted from employees to new managers. Do you have a capacity development program for people manager? Of course, once someone goes through the rigorous interview and they are given the appointment letter, would you come as a HR and you tell them, you need to build on your people's skills. They'll not accept. They feel they are the best and the top of the cream because that's how they got the promotion. But since now they are moving from dealing with their daily activity to supervising people, which is more than the job, because they have to need to understand the employee, to motivate them, to engage them so that they can stay, so that you have a higher retention, you need to identify proactively those programs and also implement them. So it is you to look at which organizations, which schools, which academies, which companies can I be able to actually get in touch. You have to research that and come up with. And probably you can call those into your organization and say, we are having, especially when you're doing onboarding, we have this program that we are forcing you to, and they're not expensive. You just need to be strategic and structured and know what you want to do with them. So you need to provide mentoring opportunities and a wide range of formal leadership programs and systems that encourage health communication, a culture of openness, because that's what you need in leadership, transparency that helps top employees to flourish. Because top employees are looking for objectivity, transparency, feedback, a culture of openness. They want to be told things as they are, communication. These are not people who thrive in bootlicking. They want their value to be noted and to be seen, and they want to be enabled. The third point that we are looking at is providing sufficient growth opportunities, which is very related to career progression that we discussed earlier. So for you to be able to retain your employee, you need to invest in your people investment, establishing career path for a wide range of interest and motivation, because you already know what the people are looking for, these categories, this generation, they want to hear. And then promoting from within. Always give people opportunity to compete for internal positions and promote them. You should even having a KPI of how many people as a HR you have grown within. How many people that we have built capacity, because that's the only way you can know the impact that you have, that people have been able to change jobs and they have grown within. That way you'll be a happy HR within, and allowing people to build their skills and knowledge across organization, and people can grow vertically and also horizontally. It helps employees feel valued. In addition to formal trainings and also the education where we talked about, you can have maybe education loans for people to go undertake, reimbursement of tuition if you don't have such facilities. So we are saying, in addition to those training and education investments and incentives that you have, think too about everyday education opportunities and integrated learning, like what Anthony was talking about. Giving stretch assignments, having innovation initiatives. Of course, you have seen in some of the organizations now, they are trying to break the departmental silos, because people want to work in departmental and professional silos into coming with what we call task forces, which is multidisciplinary, picking people from different departments so that they can challenge and bring that all together to an assignment. So stretch assignment, innovative initiatives, and cross-cutting task forces, encouraging questions are ways to invest in employees on a daily basis and give them a powerful incentive to stay in your organization. Then as another one, the fourth one, pay attention to perks. We said money is essential. Money is critical. So you need to be looking at that. So we are saying people like perks, and this can be a determining factor in motivating employees to stay or to go. And we said issues like start introducing things like flexible schedules, parental leave. You could extend maybe parental leave. You could find this is the period that an employee go for parental leave. But now there was maybe some special issues, there were complications, there were sicknesses. You may have some laxity to extend maybe a few weeks to that employee, and they'll feel wanted and they belong to your organization. Sick leaves, remote working are now not so much as perks as their expectations in your policies, and also for the new generations that are coming, and practices that you need to keep yourself abreast with the coming changes and what the employee expects of you. As a continuation, so as you pay attention to perks, So you also need to incorporate issues like the wellness program. This is something that I've seen. It is really touching on what you're calling the Gen Z and the young people who are coming. Wellness programs are very critical for them. They want to be involved. I have seen like even establishment of aerobics gyms in the workplaces where you can just have those machines, having those facilities, they can go up and release their energy. It is really talking to them. So we say wellness programs that include stress management, fitness are popular as anything that promotes a health balance between work and home life. Stay connected to your employees' needs and expectations and adjust your work with for maximum engagement and morale. And again, soliciting for feedback through employee surveys, or you can engage a consultant who picks the feedback on people. If you tell them to give you proposals, of course, at first they'll seem to be very strange, but they'll even tell you of how to implement. I can tell you one, you'll hear even people saying, why don't we start a book club? And what maybe that entails is just a WhatsApp group, and they will know where the book club goes and facilitate. They'll invite you. They ask you, Rhoda, we want to buy some few books. It's just a group, booking groups. Those are things that, what is them? The people who plays basketball, the people who that. It might need very small, but you know it is coming from them. So if they give you the feedback, come back with an action plan, and then you tick. And you tell them who is the contact person. You don't have to run them yourself. Let them run with it because probably you are not in that generation. And they'll be happy to come back and give you the feedback. So again, the other point among the 7 is engage in regular pass taking. Most of us will just run on autopilot and we think how we started things are okay, they're running well. So we should always take time to pause and do a hindsight, a reflection, get feedback, to just know how well we are doing and what we need to tweak and what we need to improve on. Ask people, because you are enabling, you are facilitating people. So we should always stay attuned to how employees are feeling, ask them, engage them. Just as the business environment keep on changing, even these generations keep on changing. Their needs keep on changing. I can tell you the needs of the employee, the way they were before COVID, they have totally changed after COVID. Reason because we introduced a work from home kind of a program and we were running. Then we came to hybrid that you could partially work from home and work from office and report. Of course, there are people who say, why don't we do this meeting virtually? So the same way, I can tell you that time for the lockdown that we were not going to the office, you have had what is called the gig economy. There are many employees who now stopping relying on the employer because they had to take a 50% salary cut or they had to lose their job. So people now have started things of the gig economy, having multiple sources of income, and people were pushed to experiment themselves. So there are people who will say, in fact, I'm looking for a job that will have flexibility, not so much about the salary. Because the issue of the salary, they have now known they can cover from other streams. So the discussion that you are having with those employees, some have even started agitating for, can I be on contract? Can you review and you keep us on contract? Because now they don't want. So those are the discussion. So always take a break, a pause, understand what are the feelings of the business, what are the feelings of the employee, and then how do you align to your strategy. So regular conversations with people are a great first line of defense against undercurrent of dissatisfaction. Because you cannot say from this day, it is when the dissatisfaction kicked in. Dissatisfaction and disengagement come gradually, slowly. So maybe by the time you are saying people are demotivated, they are coming late and you want to rebuke them, there were some undercurrents that were going on and we are only looking at the symptoms. It's like an iceberg. We are not understanding the real issues and the underlying. So when you take this regular process, get the feedback, engage, and I don't think you will write an email or do a survey and the employee will respond to you. You need to be there, have a conversation, easy, why are people saying this and this? You know, they don't even feel like they are them saying, and they'll talk passionately about it, and you'll be able to have the feelers of what is happening in the ground. So we say regular conversation. However, once you do this conversation, you'll be branded like this is just lip service. You talk to them, you talk, but we don't see any other action. Employee expect to see some action. And you must go into it deliberately and willing to hear the feedback, and you must have the desire to do some improvements. You may not do all, but there's something you can do, and they will feel heard. So we are saying this conversation should be followed up with other mechanisms to understand what is going on within the culture of the organization. You remember we said company culture makes a difference whether you'll attract the people or whether people will stay. There are people who leave the organization because they feel the workplace is so toxic. So surveys and quick polls can uncover patterns and trends through data analysis. Likewise, stay interviews. Do we just do exit interviews, or we take pauses and do stay interviews? What is one of the things that will make you stay in our organization? Tell me one or two things you like so much about our organization. Then you could pose another question. Even the questions you put in your satisfaction survey, you could pose a questions like, what is one of the areas you think we can improve? You see, you have brought the big rosy picture. What are the things that you like so much about our organization? And what are some of the areas that you think we can work better on? Maybe you could say better training. If trainings are used as a reward, they are not objective. The selection, I've never been trained. There's favorism. There's no room for promotions, all that. Then you come up with different mechanisms. So again, these stay interviews, and especially for those people who do culture audit and culture review, we always recommend that they are done by neutral parties, not person who is inside. That is when you look for a consultant. Because a consultant, and then you give the assurance to the employee that this is a neutral party, then they can open up in confidence. And then because the consultant will give a consolidated report, they'll not come and say, Anthony said that, the head of HR said that. So it gives a consolidated picture, and there must be a buy-in from the senior management and the board. If there's no buy-in, then it's likely to fail. So the neutral parties may elicit more authentic response than they are ready to tell you, versus one-on-one conversation. One-on-one conversations, we talk about focus groups, that people sit around interdisciplinary and they discuss issues of how do you see recruitment, how do you see promotions, how do you see the HR we felt on the ground, how do you feel talent management, career progression. Then people will be able to talk, what do you think we can do? So you're also soliciting for the solution. These are times, again, we are saying these types of activities identify issues before they lead into turnover or before the satisfaction escalate into the grievances of the employee. Number 6, we are saying we also need to invest in what we call the consumer grade tools or technology for all your employees. And what I mean by this, you look at customer grade tools are the latest tools and the technology that will make it. We are looking at making it easy for the employees who are doing the work. What kind of systems and technology as an employer have you invested in? You can imagine employees who are working with redundant tools, the kind of inefficiencies we are likely to experience. That's something that they ought to do in 1 hour, they are doing it in 5 hours. So what this brings is about frustration of the employee. You have deployed a system with very unstable internet. It is web-based. So even when they're serving a client or a frontline, it is taking too long. So the customers are complaining. They are not able to deliver the services or the goods in the right time. So there's some dissatisfaction. There's a lot of complaints from the employees, from their customers or the people that you are serving, whether you're in manufacturing or service. Then the employees are frustrated because they want to serve, but they cannot serve because we have not provided to them the right tools and also the facility. And now talking about Gen Z here, they are people of gadgets. You can tell if you go to and buy the latest iPhone, bring it to your kids. they will just, you even wonder whether they learn. They'll just flip it, and you are even struggling to get where is the touch button. How do you navigate? You have to carry 2 or 3 phones at a go. So imagine these are the people who are working to the workplace, and you want to give them a desktop, which takes 5 minutes to start. So they have to look at the clients. And their idle time is really disturbing and frustrating for them. They want to post this transaction, but they have to wait. That kind of frustration will not keep them. So we need to understand the tools and the equipment and the system we are giving to our employee. They should be able to make it easy for them so that they can serve the business, and the business will generate more income. They'll be happy and will have money to fund all these things. We are talking about the salaries, the benefits, and the training, and they will enjoy. I can tell you one time when I was in the banking industry, there was a time I twice voted the fastest teller because I was in this queue of express and priority, and I could serve like 600 tickets in one day. That by the time I'm saying, hi, Millie, I've already posted your transaction because I already know your number because the system was fast, and I'm saying, have a good day. You are like, have you posted? I'm already done with you because the system could, and I could enjoy the job, though that was the job, not job of my training. So employee, we will, especially the Gen Z, want to outperform, want to please their client. They want to show that they can do it. But when you start bogging them down with redundant systems and the tools, then that frustration, they're not likely to do that. So show our employees that you care about them and their ability to do their work well by arming them with tools and technology delivered through multi-tenant, or what you call multi-customers. We have the public cloud systems, all those jargons in the tech space you'll understand. Ones that do the best jobs in keeping current with the customer, what you call the consumer grade kind of standards, what is expected in the industry. You can compare organizations like the Celtel, was it like the Celtel and the Safaricom? You could see the kind of technology they had and how they embrace, and why probably people could decide to do that. So the last one, we say level up your employees' engagement strategy, engagement. When you talk about communication, we talk about giving them the tools, understanding their needs, their changing satisfaction level, performance, and engaging. It is all about engagement. Engage so that you know. People want to be heard. And the moment you listen, it's like you have solved the problem halfway. So we say the sad statistics show that only about 33% of our new employees are fully engaged in their new role. And this is very disappointing considering the kind of time and effort and the money we put into the onboarding experience on these employees. But you'll find them on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, and still wonder people come to the office to do because they are disengaged. So we need to invest time and money in developing the right strategy, implementing the right technology to ensure their engagement is both up to date and also impactful. So if you want to remove them from this Instagram, Facebook, or that, I have seen organizations who have come up with those chatting. The way we can chat on this across the organization, they are able to chat. Have you seen that? Did you see? Have you done this report? They don't want to do it on email. Those maybe chat tools have been implemented in many organizations, especially in the private and the big corporates. So we're also going to look at, before we move to the next year, which is, we want now to talk about engagement. What is this thing that I'm talking about, engagement? What is engagement? For us to be able to retain. But before I give you the few tips, which are just about 6 of them, I'll also take a pause. We have agreed we need to be taking a pause and say, are we together? Do we have any question? Do you want to add a point? What is your take on that before we now come to engagement? Because you can see now, retention is about engagement. It's more sales. We've not even talked so much about increase the salary. Of course, we talked about facts. We said money is important, but you can see the other aspect, which are within us, that we can come up with. I'm seeing 7 charts that I've not read. So true, paid for self. Yeah, Daniel has said, even him, he has been building capacity and he has paid this cost for himself. Jacinta, I said no. I don't know what she was saying no to. Maybe the employer didn't pay. Conducting morale checks. That's from Susan. I'm just looking at the comment just in case there are questions. I know there are people who are unable to unmute so that I don't leave. True, very true. All of you, Aknaban is paid for yourself. and also following in the discussion. So I'm taking a 1 minute pause for questions, clarifications, or what it has elicited within you. What have you remembered? Do you think it's something that we can do? Or do you think the organization has to fund all this? Just 2 comments. Then we proceed with the tips. Tips, you know, they are just selective words of wisdom. They are like nuggets, what I think you can do. Any comments? Just unmute. Tell us something. Are we together?
Yeah, Rhoda.
Yes, Susan.
Yes, I think the session that you've just concluded is, I think it's just speaking to us as HR professionals, that we shouldn't just sit and imagine that our teams are okay.
They're not.
I think what you're saying is that we should engage them and just try to get or hear from them how they are feeling and what they would want to be done for them to be able to deliver. Yeah, I think many times as HR practitioners, we try and imagine that everything is okay.
Yes.
But I think that is not the case here. Let's just hear from them what they would want to be done, how they would want to be done, so that they are able to deliver as to their organization objectives and that kind of thing. Thank you.
One point, Susan. Let's know. We know at times we may deceive ourselves. Yeah, the HR practitioners, we know about people. We can read people's mind. We don't. Even our children's, we don't. We don't engage them. They disconnect with us.
Very true.
And don't be happy when people are keeping quiet. Me, I like when people are making noise and they are complaining. The moment you go and ask and nobody is saying and they're saying we are okay, that's a very big warning sign for me. Okay. So let's look at the tips. Then I can see it's almost 11, but okay, it's actually almost 11. We still have 20 minutes, but I'll take the next 10 minutes so that I can leave room for any questions. So tips are just good nuggets, some words of advisory. They are not exhaustive. You can add many to the list, but this is probably what we have just prepared. So tips to increase employees' engagement. So here are several tips to increase employees' engagement and productivity at the same time, because why do we want to increase people's engagement? Not just that they remain happy, they stay with us. We want people to be proactive. We want to improve our bottom line. We want to improve the performance, the visibility, and the feel of the organization. The bottom line is improve productivity and performance. So the first tip, we need to increase collaboration. Whether you're going to use the online communications like the chat that I'm talking about, whether you are going to use forums, whether you're going to use surveys, whether you're going to use performance interviews, just have a way of increasing collaboration. And this engagement is between you as the employer, because HR is the employer and the employee. And it also entails increasing cross-departmental collaboration. Understand what the departments are doing. Understand their core functions. Understand their pay points. Understand their desires. And understand how you as HR can add value to them. Know their pain point and know, me as HR, how can I help the department? And you get through this by collaborating with the department managers and the senior leaders, because they have the badge overview. So even as you're tailoring your training, at times we may over-rely on individual training needs assessment. They say that Rhoda want to be trained on this. But what are the needs of the department? Because the department, remember, they have been cascaded from the organization structure, and their performance are from the strategy. So beside the HR, see how that department is actually adding to the realization of the overall organization strategy. Because you'll find and you will reckon when the other departments are not performing, they always give 2 reasons. We didn't have sufficient budget because we had a budget cut. We could not buy the system, we could not buy the tools, we could not do this. The second and the sure reason is we didn't have the capacity. People were not well trained. We didn't have enough number of employees. HR took a lot of time to recruit and replace. And there, Anthony, is it Anthony or Chris, will have a blame that for this financial year that starts from January to December, we had requested for additional staff, which were in the plan from the HR, but HR took a lot of time. They recruited for us in August or October. So when these people were supposed to meet this target for a period of 12 months, they were only with us for a period of 3 months, and the first month is the induction, the second month they're trying to lift, and the third month we are doing the appraisal. The blame game starts. And people now start blaming the HR. The targets were not smart. They were not measurable. And they start now blaming the performance tool. A tool is just a structure, a template. But how do we come up with performance targets? Are they smart? Are they measurable? Are they talking to the strategy? Are they talking to the targets of the department? Because this is where you now have starting issues, whether a department, everybody is scoring 100, yet the corporate performance is at 50. So if it's the corporate planning where the corporate target where we are anchoring the manager's performance on, they're at 50, but everybody in their department has performed at 100. So we have to increase collaboration, either virtually, online, whatever system you want to use, let's have discussions. So online communication connect employees and team leaders, even if many are working from home or remotely, with convenient communication tool, everybody will find it easier to deliver the thoughts and ideas and also give solutions to the issues that we are experiencing. Then number 2, we need to create a fun working environment. Look at that. Is that an office or a club or a restaurant or a breakaway area? Look at that. The guy in t-shirt, you can see he's very busy. Maybe he's in a meeting. He wants to unwind. He wants to have his own time. But would you encourage that in your organization? This is how those big organizations like the Google, they are easy. Others are discussing. I don't know whether they're waiting for coffee or a drink, but those people are working. Or maybe they're meeting with their clients in those breakaway areas. So try to make, it's not all that serious. It's not a matter of life and death. You can afford to crack a rib once in a while. Let people laugh, have fun. Don't be so dead serious. So make sure team members feel happy, welcomed in the office environment. I should not be in that office. You say, what do you want? Close the door on your way out. Closed office. Can people just be passing and say, hi, Rhoda, how are you doing? How is that going? How was your weekend? Or what? HR. Make sure teams feel happy and welcomed in the office environment. Create a special chat room or forums to have casual conversations, lunchroom, canteens, people where can meet, those working in physical offices. Create a relaxing area where everybody can store food, snacks, fridge, those microwaves, have tea, coffee, talk casually, where someone can just stop and unwind. The other thing is simplify and streamline tasks so that those are bottlenecks that we have in the system, that this is what we call the business engineering. We want to make it easy for employees to work. So if you have to relook at the systems, the process flow, unclog those bottlenecks so that employees can be able to thrive and work. So we say convoluted tasks and bureaucracies can lower employees' motivation. You can use management tools to reduce steps and automate some of the functions that are rudimental, that are routine, like the data entry, for example, the password. Maybe you could even automate your recruitment system. Why do you have to do all these paperwork where you have long list of 1,000 applications in cartons and cartons? Password management tool is also a great to simplify task when making or reducing security. People don't have to come and apply leave from your office. Automate most of this rudimental activity so that then you ease yourself as a HR, then you can be concentrating on performance management, staff engagement, training, the things that build the people. Because those things can be done by anybody. Training and education will make employees feel intellectually refreshed and also valued. Giving them new skills can also help with cross-task delegations, which can reduce the workload and burnouts. Then virtual classes like what we are having today are a perfect solution for providing such, and people will be able to work and also feel refreshed. You can see this is a very simple topic, but you feel like your mind is being refreshed and it is making you look at something from a very different perspective, even from the contributions you're having. The other one is perform analytics to track performance and goals. So this is where we are saying, especially even for Gen Z, steady progression towards a shared goal, which is predetermined, which is agreed to complete with reports will help employees to feel more engaged because they are looking from one milestone, one signpost to another. They look at, I've been able to move this. So that kind of feedback and performance culture keep them engaged because they are seeing how they are laying those building bricks and what is shaping them. But if they just come, you give them targets or even forget to give them, then you don't speak until the end of the year, then even when they do those things and they have moved those structures, they feel like nobody is observing. So who cares anyway? Who cares about performance? So you can perform these tasks using digital tools that automatically update project information, complete with insightful reports and function to see how those people, they love progress and performance. They need to be tracked. The last point, I think it's the last, is we need to create work-time flexibility, work-life balance. You should be happy when you see an employee is engaged from a social level, from work level to the family level. We don't want people who are just lost in their jobs and they have no other life. These are the categories of people you'll have a lot of problem when you talk about retirement because they have no world to go to. We need to have that work-life balance, encourage people. One of the things that I say, even for male employees, when you get a new child, you need to take your paternity leave within that month or the first 2 weeks when the baby. That is when you are needed at home, not thereafter. You need to be there to take care of that spouse who has given birth, to help along when they cannot even lift that karai or anything. That is the time you need to be. You need to be there at the formative years of your child. So those are the things you push, allow people. I've even had strange cases of women refusing to go for maternity leave. I've had a case where 2 cases of employee in one organization, they're pregnant, give birth on Friday night, Monday they're in the office, and they went through a CS. And doesn't want to announce to anybody they got a baby, but physically you can see, which is a risk, is an non-compliance, is a danger to the organization. So create the work time flexibility. Let people go on leave. Let people enjoy their time. Employees who feel restricted in work methods will feel stressed out, unable to perform their best abilities. If not addressed, this will result in feeling of undervalued and lack of engagement. Creating flexible working hours, providing remote work tools will help, especially during stressful time like the pandemic that we had. And also that people can also attend to other things once in a while when they can still deliver because they are call away, they are on the email, they are on the internet, they are able to approve everything. We should be able to have that conversation. And those are some of the cases that will be brought to you by the supervisor for you to engage and also for you to advise. So be that open HR because what you're looking at, you can see you are the author of this thing we are talking about, attracting, how to retain, and also engaging with your employee. And that brings us to the end of our presentation today. And I'm happy we have engaged. So let me hear any question, any clarification. And I think we have done justice to those 2 hours and maybe 15 minutes or 30 minutes that we have engaged together. Very simple topic, but also how you approach it and how you look at it. Someone, I think this is from Banis. I feel the employee retention in any organization majorly depends on the top management. Of course, if you don't have the support of the board and the senior management, you are likely not to make an impact. So we must be able to influence the other senior managers. And I always say it starts from simply, the point of training and performance management is the first level of engaging. You'll not be taking board papers, and that is where you're meeting with your board and your senior management. In everyday interaction, how are we interacting with your finance department? Or are you this kind of HR who fears numbers so much? The moment you see head of finance, director finance, you feel these are the people who hate you. When you look at the legal, they think I'll take a policy and they'll fire me and show me like I'm nobody. The way we are having conversation today, start those conversations, try to understand how their departments are performing. How can we be of help? At times, even ask them, when you're having a staff meeting, invite me, I want to just come, talk to your people. Let me hear the issues that are coming, work with them in disciplinary performance training, that their word means a lot. Even by the time you go to sit in those boards forever, you'll have their buy-in. And because you are supporting them and you're cooperating and collaborating with them, they'll also be able and they'll be willing to support you. Because without the senior management support, they can be even the people who will be shutting down all your activity. So I agree with you 100%. Anthony says, maybe in the next program, we should look into at hindrances to tapping and retaining top talents and what should be done to overcome these barriers. That is very true. I'm sure Dan has marked, I've seen him for that. Okay, so that brings us following discussions. We don't even, where employees want to progress themselves, they'll not be supported. That is good. So I think I read all the charts. And in case we have any clarifications, I think I'm done with the session. Any question before we close? I don't want to close anybody out. And I hope you have enjoyed the session. So then I can see you're raring to tell us something. I think I'm through with the class and you can take over. And thank you, colleagues. Then closing remarks. Then over to you.
Yes, Loda, I can hear you. Thank you very much. You've actually nailed the key aspects of this particular training on how to attract and retain top talents. And to our participants, I hope you've gotten some take home or some takeaway that you would implement at your workplaces. Now, this is the main essence of continuous professional development, that you continuously unlearn and you also learn some other aspects of what is the current best practices at our current workplaces today. Now, for purposes of those who had paid for this webinar, I've already approved the trainings for each one of you, and you'd be able to find your course certificate under my courses. Maybe I could demonstrate a little on how to go about this. So let's see. Let me share so that we can be able to see how best to approach this aspect. Can you be able to see the portal achrp.org? Someone?
Yes, we can see.
Yes, can.
Yeah, I want to log into my account, and for purposes of this, let me see. I hope I've taken this course. So I've put my email. The password for everyone at all times is HR 2021. That does not change. I see I had not taken this course, so I will enroll for that. My name is Den, so I would say maybe my M-Pesa code is Den 2025. Don't do that on your head because the system would reject that. I've taken that for purposes of this demonstration. Every time you enroll for a training, I guess you saw what I did. I logged in. Once you log in, this system takes you to take courses. These are what we call menus. It takes you to take courses. And the first column shows unchecked boxes. So taking a course implies selecting the course by checking the box. Then once you've done that, it will show the amount. For example, select course, it shows you the amount payable. Go to your M-Pesa, use pay bill 247247. Account number is indicated there. Once you get the M-Pesa code, those first digits of the M-Pesa message, you input them there and click submit. Now, since I've already done that, the moment that is done, your course goes to my courses. This is like a supermarket. So you've selected the course, the item goes to my courses now. The course is partially yours, pending approval. So you may have found your presentation was pending and your certificate was pending. Now, what I would need to do at that particular point is to look at maybe let me log in so that I can approve that course. So I would find the course pending there, and I've approved that. So after this, when you log in, once your course has been approved, you will be able to find something like this under my courses. You see the pending? The pending for this particular course is no longer there, except for the certificate. The certificate gets released at exactly 4 p.m. It will indicate green download. In the meantime, you can be able to view the notes that Rhoda was sharing. I guess most of those who are checking out know how to use this system, or maybe something else. But you would find you can actually even view the recording for this particular course. There it is. This was what we had. I guess since it is streaming live, I should actually add the
Great.
My expectation for this training is that being aware that turnover is a very expensive affair. So for me,
is the part of attracting, and there's
so you can review the presentation once again after we are done with this at any one time when you log into your account. So maybe